Erev Tov Chavrim, I'm Stephen DeNoon. You're watching Israeli News Live. Very serious story breaking. I want to thank my good friend Roddy Brown for sending this over to me. The Times of Israel reporting that Donald Trump stuns the Middle East by sending an honest broker, as they call it here. This honest broker is Jason Greenblatt. And he has been sent there. They say about this man that he, he doesn't just give in to every demand that Prime Minister Netanyahu would want, but he's also very candid about what the Trump administration is expecting of the Palestinian Authority in order to bring about peace. Now, we have to remember the Rabbi Yehuda Glick, MK Yehuda Glick, which he is known by now, but he's also still a rabbi by many in their view there. In the interview that he had with Pastor Paul Begley on his program, End Time Apocalypse there, one that we were also given permission to share with you on Israeli News Live, he had stated there is no more two-state solution. And he said they had their chance. They had their chance in 1948, they had their chance in 2000, and also in 1967. And he stated there is no more two-state solution. So what is really going on? Even Donald Trump had talked about didn't have to really be a two-state solution, but still they're doing something to broker about peace. Now, how does this affect prophecy? What's going on that I say this is a prophetic alert that we're looking at right here? And that's because not only was he there speaking about this with Mahmoud Abbas and with the Israeli authorities there about bringing about peace to the Palestinians, basically a two-state solution in my opinion, but he did something very odd. And that was that he also met in an interfaith summit while he was there. Greenblatt on Thursday also hosted a rare interfaith summit of the Council of Religious Institutions in the Holy Land, which was attended by both Israeli chief rabbis and the chief justices of the PA's Sharia court. As I stated, if there's a Palestinian state, there will be a Sharia law. And I can tell you one thing, there's a lot of Palestinian girls that would not want anything to do with the Sharia law, let alone Israelis living in that area. But anyway, he hosted this event there. This is troubling, majorly troubling. Now, it doesn't take away from the prophecy of Zechariah 12. The chiefs or the champions of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem are my strength through the Lord of hosts, their God. All right? And this is exactly what the Trump administration is doing. They are capitalizing on the fact that they believe that if they stand with Israel, modern day Israel. Now I understand, you don't have to go into the little things, making little comments out there. It's not Israel in the land, it's Judah, Israel's not there. Okay, I know the house of Israel and the house of Judah, but if you remember, they were split and became the house of Israel and the house of Judah. They're still the children of Israel, and it's still the children of Israel, Judah, Levi, and that of Benjamin. So it's still Jacob's sons nonetheless. So yes, they are Israel as well, even though it's the house of Judah. We realize that. All right, so they're home, they're there, and the scripture speaks about Jerusalem becoming a cup of trembling, and it truly was a cup of trembling. We know this because King Abdullah II, when Donald Trump was being very adamant about moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, he, without invitation, flies to the United States to see President Trump as he first became elected to beg him, don't do it. You'll create a massive unrest in the Middle East if you try to move the embassy there. All right, so President Trump, he kind of backed down just a little bit, but he still didn't change his mind. And it's truly causing a cup of trembling for what the people around about the land. But look at the way the prophecy was going there. It's not just the fact of the Trump administration standing with the Jewish people. Notice in verse 3, about near the end of it, last sentence, and all nations of the earth shall be gathered together against it. Against who? Against Judah and Jerusalem. Okay, that's who they're against. They're against them. They've become a burdensome stone. And that's what the United Nations did, especially when they passed Resolution 2334 in December of 2016. And then in January 15, 2017, those 70 plus nations came to Paris, France to try to bring about, force this two-state solution. Now, the Trump administration, again, was major player in stopping that. but there's still some very close ties to Rome in the background. Doesn't change the fact that he's standing as a champion or a chief of Judah, as I brought that out. And that can also be seen on the Washington or the WhiteHouse.gov website. Now, look at your screen closely here. I'm going to blow this up so you guys can see this good here. This is the WhiteHouse.gov/Trump stands with Israel. President Trump stands with Israel. Can you imagine that? What president in the history of the United States ever had the audacity to put something like that on their website? There's not been a president before. None that I know of. And he said he stands with President Trump. He says, President Trump stands with the solidarity with Israel to reaffirm the unbreakable bond between our two nations and promote security and prosperity for all. Stand with President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he invites you to include your name. You can do what you want on that. I'm not encouraging on that there. But the point is that this is the champion. And I've shared with you the articles that have been published out there that Trump is a champion of Israel. This is what they're even calling this guy. All right, but notice though, they say in their heart. Why in their heart? Because it's not politically correct to make that statement, right? That's why they don't say, well, we know, as the prophecy says, and it doesn't say, if you bless Israel, you'll be blessed, But God had made a promise not just to Abraham. He also makes the promise later with Jacob, which is Israel. That's his name is changed to Israel. He said, whoever blesses you, I will bless, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And this is what the Trump administration has done. But remember, when I shared with you this prophecy, I told you it has nothing to do with the fact of a Palestinian state. I said he may very well still go in that direction. But clearly, we see that prophecy in the making. But what is this though with his man Jason Greenblatt and hosting an interfaith summit? You guys remember the Mekodeshit that I shared with you, that me and my wife, we were there in Jerusalem. You guys helped us to get there, no doubt. And we went there, we were covering it. Very difficult story to cover there. It was an interfaith movement. And of course, Mekodeshit is the very word in modern Hebrew for betrothed. To engage one, all right? To get engaged, like getting married, right? That's what this is all about. And they were doing that. And like right here, you can barely see it on your screen probably right here. We were able to slip in on this particular meeting right here. We weren't very welcomed either when they saw us there, because they didn't want this going public right here, not without their way of making it public. They were this was called the reconciliation meeting right here. And we asked the sponsor of this program here, what were they doing at these tables as you see here on your screen there? Let me see if I can blow that up for you, just get a little bit better look at this, because it's really, really serious what this was happening right here. And I don't guess I can actually get it there. I apologize. But the reason why this was so serious, what you were seeing here at this little meeting here that I've kind of highlighted on here, that reconciliation is all to do with a prophecy. All right. Now, here's where my concern comes in. It lets us know the Trump administration is also working with Rome, because Rome is the one that has been organizing the Mekodeshit, trying to bring about a prophecy, another prophecy in Daniel 11. Remember the one I shared with you back, months ago, last year, in fact. In verse 14, Daniel chapter 11, verse 14, in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south. Also, the children of the violent among thy people shall lift themselves up to establish the vision, but they shall stumble. That king of the south, I really believe, is none other than the leader of Israel, which is Prime Minister Netanyahu. But the translation is a little bit sketchy, not too all. It can be translated this way. Also, the children of the violent among thy people shall lift themselves up to establish the vision. All right? Now, we're going to see what vision that is in just a moment. But the children, Uvane Patsi Amcha, it says, your people, because the prophecy, the angel's talking to Daniel. So there have to be Jewish people, Israelis, Hebrews, in other words, all right? So there are some, they call it violent. Better way to translate that is thieves or robbers or lawless. In other words, they don't keep laws very well. They don't keep God's word very well. And so the sons, Uvane, doesn't have to be children, but the sons of the lawless are the thieves of your people. They will inasu lachamid hazon. Okay, they're going to do what? All right, they're going to try to establish the vision, but you know there's another way you can translate that. Let me just share with you. Modern Hebrew, for example, take inasu. Inasu, just type it in there to your Google Translate. They will marry the vision. And what are they doing over there? The mekodeshet, the engagement. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to marry those faiths all together. They're trying to establish a vision, as Daniel says here, trying to establish the vision. But you have to ask yourself the question, which vision? It's very simple. Daniel chapter 9. Let's go down. Remember, what did I say they were doing? They were doing reconciliation for iniquity. Remember the Pope had that for the entire year last year, reconciliation for iniquity. Verse 24, Daniel chapter 9, 70 weeks are decreed upon thy people and upon thy holy city, which is Jerusalem, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sin, to forgive iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophet, and to anoint the most holy place. Reconciliation for iniquity, forgive iniquity. See, right on there. Let me make sure you can see that, guys. Forgive iniquity. Reconciliation for iniquity. What were they doing in that meeting? They were repenting, right? And the sad thing is, though, as in the Trump administration, you know, no doubt God will bless them for their stand for the Jewish people. I believe He'll bless them for that there. But to see that they have been blinded to this Mekodeshet movement, and the rabbis of Israel, you know, I can understand the rabbis getting involved in this because they don't know any better. They don't realize that this is not of God. They have failed to recognize the prophecy of Daniel 11, that the sons of the lawless are the ones that are doing this. But nonetheless, we're seeing biblical prophecy right before your eyes, mounting up more and more, faster and faster, day after day. Just quickly in closing as well, let me just share this with you. I saw this just a little bit ago. China warns of nuclear first strike in response to THAAD deployment. This is on InfoWars here. China warns that it is reconsidering its policy not to use nuclear weapons against South Korea in response to the U.S. deploying the THAAD missile system and sending B-52 bombers to protect its ally. THAAD is being deployed to shield South Korea from North Korean ballistic missiles after several tests by the Stalinist state in recent months. Beijing is furious because the system will also be capable of detecting and tracking missiles launched from China. It was also reported yesterday that the U.S. will send a B-1 and B-52, which we already shared that with you, moving B-1 B-52 bombers in there. It is a very serious development, and I've said this to you all along, that this was not going to go over very well with China, neither with Russia, either one. Now, Russia's not saying anything about it, but I can guarantee you one thing, Russia is watching very closely the U.S.'s movements there in the Middle East. Anyway, don't forget, guys, again, as we mentioned earlier this morning there, we are headed to Israel next week there. We'll be trying to cover many things there for you, be sharing some things with you that you're not even aware of that'll be going on there. I know it'll be truly a blessing for you. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can go to our website, israelinewslive.org. And you can contribute there. Thank you so much. And we have been seeing the comments about putting a donation place here on YouTube. And as soon as we can figure out how that works, we will get that up for you as well. I'm Stephen DeNoon. You're watching Israeli News Live. Shalom.